Good morning and welcome to Pepperwood. My name is Ryan Ferrell, and today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about our newest addition here, a Flux Tower. And specifically, this Flux Tower is named for the two sensors on there, an anemometer, which is going to give you wind speed and direction, and a gas analyzer, which is going to give you the concentration or density of gas. Pairing those measurements, you can quantify the amount or flux of gas moving either out of this ecosystem or into this ecosystem. So specifically, what gases are we measuring? CO2 and water vapor, both reactants and products of forest evapotranspiration or forest water use. Those are the sensors for which this tower is named a Flux Tower, but there's a whole suite of other sensors on there that are pretty critical in understanding parts of the energy balance and several other factors. So we also on this tower are going to have several radiometers. They're measuring solar radiation, but they're measuring different parts of solar radiation. One of the sensors is a PAR sensor, or photosynthetically active radiation, and it's the sunlight that the trees use and see for photosynthesis. Another radiometer on there is a 4-component net radiometer, and this is where the energy balance part comes in. We are measuring short and long wave radiation coming into the system, and then it's also looking downward, so we're measuring short and long wave radiation going out of the system. And by knowing those 4 components, we can get at the energy balance. A little more on the water balance piece. We've got our classical tipping bucket rain gauge is going to go on here, so we know how much precipitation is coming into the system. Below the tower, down in the soils, we're going to have soil moisture sensors, so we're going to know how much of that rainfall is entering the soil, and we're going to understand our change in soil moisture so we can quantify part of the water balance that way. So we've got our incoming, we've got our storage in the soils, we have our water vapor exiting through the flux sensors, and eventually one of the remaining pieces in that water balance is measuring stream flow down in the canyons and creeks below us. All right, so I've just listed off all the sensors and measurements we're going to be capturing with this tower. So why is that important, and how does that boil down to both ecosystem health and human health? Specifically here at Pepperwood in the natural ecosystem environment, we will be quantifying the impacts of our forest management and stewardship. And so let me set the scene, set the context for this place. And much of California is our forests are a product of fire suppression across the last 100 years. So we have dense, overstocked forest, essentially too many straws, the trees in the bucket, the soil. And so there's a lot of water use happening by the forest. And with our management, thinning and prescribed fire, we're hoping to shift, by taking out some of those trees, shift the water balance away from the forest, so reduce stress on the forest and get that water back into the riparian and aquatic ecosystem. So another ecosystem benefit of our management is reducing the overall stress on the forest. By opening up the canopy, we're allowing more light to come through, hit the forest floor, produce more grass and forbs, which is a food source for a lot of the mammals here in the forest. Furthermore, by opening that up, we have a little bit drier, warmer conditions, and so you reduce the chances of things like fungal outbreaks or different pathogens that might impact denser, wetter forests. And then finally, fire resilience. If the forests aren't stressed, it means they can hold more water, per the individual tree. They're less likely to burn up in a devastating wildfire, and then fire suppression efforts are easier because you have a slower, less aggressive fire. So we've talked about water supply and fire resiliency as benefits for the ecosystem here, but it's important to remember that humans are part of that ecosystem as well. And so it really drives home the point and the importance of these towers and these measurements here that are directly quantifying our management activities. And so the end, our stewardship up here has a direct impact on our lives down there.